that scene is very important because not only do they meet for the first time, Abra and Danny, do they meet for the first time, and that we are told by Danny that his approach is he dulls the shine.
Yeah.
Take it down, keep off the radar, don't attract attention.
You have this special magical power. Kill it.
Yeah, basically do whatever you can to stop. That's the only way you're going to make it. Yeah.
Which is funny because where he's gotten to where he is, it's not really a good place.
Well, it's better than where he was when we met him in the beginning of the movie.
Yeah, true.
You know,
true.
he's put his life back in order.
He
That's
equates
a good
The Shining
thing.
with nothing but trouble.
Right, but since he's gotten back, it's all about keeping it down. And there's a scene where Dick visits him again while he's working in the nursing home.
Where he becomes Dr. Sleep.
Where he becomes Dr. Sleep. That's a very important part. These people are dying, and Danny sits with them and shows them things from their life to comfort them as they die. And they call him Dr. Sleep. As he's helping these people transition out of life and comforting them, the cat is the thing that knows when people are going to die. So the cat will go into the room and sit on the person's bed that's about to die. Well, in this scene, the cat goes into the room that's empty. And so he goes in to tell the cat, hey, there's no one in there. And Dick is there. And it's the last time we see Dick. Because Dick says this is a dream of a dream, this world. He's so far removed that it actually hurts to be there. And that's where he convinces Danny.
He has to use all of his anything to get through.
That's where he convinces Danny that he has to help Abra. Because at that point, he had told Abra, go, hide, turn off your shine, do whatever you can to keep these people from finding you. And it's Dick that says, you have to help her. And he says, why me? And he's like, why you? Why me? You walked into my kitchen 40 years ago and I'm still on the hook. Like this old man who has been dead for 30 years, 35 years, however long it's been since the Shining, is still having to help Danny. And he's been dead for 30 plus years. And so his point is, you're here to help her, just like I was there to help you.
There is no happenstance.
You don't get to sit this one out. You don't get to say, not my problem. No, it is, because you're aware of it now. Once you're aware of it, you have to do something about it. Dick didn't want to get on a plane and go all the way to Colorado just to take an axe in the chest. Yeah. There were better things to do that day.
He had to get back to deal with some irresponsible assholes.
Yeah, like there were better things he had to do that day than to get on a plane and fly to Colorado. You know, I mean, sit in that room with his paintings. The fantastic paintings. I would have rather sat in the room. But point being is that Dick convinces him, you don't have a choice. You have to help this girl because they're either going to kill her, they're going to turn her, or they're going to use her as some sort of like a drug mule / cow and just feed off of her forever, which would be the worst thing, that she would just be in this constant state of being fed off of. And so he tells him, you have no choice. You have to help this little girl, because if they had ever noticed you when you were her age, they would have gotten you. You would have not had anybody to stop them. You are that person that can stop them from getting to her. So thus putting us back on the track of both these stories colliding together. This is where they actually officially collide.
It's actually where it happens and
becomes one story.
We start moving forward. He has an interview for the job at the hospital.
Right. Yes.
And the interview happens in the exact same interview space as
his father.
It is the interview room, the office of Stuart Ullman, where he's interviewed by this doctor, and the beautiful set
recreated.
And that's kind of to me, looking at that's like the interview in The Shining. That's like they were put in that situation, and from then on, their story was written.
And it's the last rung. It's their last chance.
Bingo.
That orderly job is his last chance to get his life on track.
Exactly.
Just like Jack's is the last chance to get his life on track with the Overlook. This is Danny's last track. He's working a couple shifts at Teen Town.
Yeah.
That's not a job.
So it wasn't just
a job.
Yeah, and it wasn't just like, hey, well, let's make this set for no reason.
Right.
There's
it's the parallel between father and son.
Yeah.
Where father goes and veers this way, son veers the other way to get his life back on track. And now the parallels between the beginning with The Shining and the end with Dr. Sleep, you're seeing father and son going down this path and how it goes differently for each of them. But it's important because of that, for no other reason than we see Danny accepting and putting his life back on track.
Yeah, doing good for other people. And
Right.
if he hadn't have done that, when Dick comes in and talks to him, like, yeah, you're doing good for other people, but this girl really needs your help.
Yeah, no, this you
he
have
knows
to
he's
do
back
this.
on track. But
Yeah, well, because he even says, he's like,
Yeah.
looks like you turned out all right.
Yeah.
You know, your life is okay now. But that doesn't mean you get to ignore
Yeah.
what these awful people are going to be doing to her if they get their hands on her. So, so after they meet and after Dick convinces Danny that this is the right thing to do, then Danny has no choice. Abra has told him that the boy that they killed, the baseball player, had a glove, and that one of the guys was holding that glove, and if she could hold it, she could better tune in to where they are. So that's where Danny and Billy decide to go, because Danny convinces Billy that he's like, I'm going to tell you a story and you have to do your best to believe me.
Yeah.
They go to get the baseball glove. But there's something that we didn't touch upon, which is Abra's using her shine to get inside of Rose the Hat while she's in the grocery store. And she's able to see through Rose, and then Rose realizes that she's there. She looks in the reflection, and she closes her eyes, but then looks in the reflection of the grocery store display case and sees Abra, and then tries to turn around on her and go into her, and Abra blows her ass out like it was nothing.
Yep.
And that's where they really understand, oh God, this girl is more powerful than any of us.
Yeah, she's got more of the sauce.
Yeah, that no one has ever
We
been
can
able
vape
to
on
shake
her
off
for
Rose like
years.
that. Rose has
Yeah.
never been able to, no one's ever been able to get Rose out of him like that. And so that's just another scene that shows how powerful Abra is, and thus how much they want her. But Danny and Billy go out, they get the glove, they find the boy. That's where Billy realizes, oh, shit, this is real. To his point, I think his line is, if this is all in your head, fake monsters killing fake kids, I can deal with that. But if it's real, that's even worse, obviously. So they find the boy, they get the glove, and then they come back to Abra's parents' house where her mom has left to go be with the sick grandma. So it's just her father. And that is where they have to convince the father, this is real.
And he's not buying any of it.
None of it.
Until she's just like, this is what I see, Dad.
She hits him with the full shine, which she hadn't done. She says earlier, I have specifically not been using my shine around my parents because I don't want to weird them out. There's a lot of parallels between Abra's upbringing and Danny, where Danny says that my parents are aware of this, and she says my parents are aware of this. And
just not aware of the depth and the power of it.
How it affects their relationship with their parents when the parents see them doing stuff or using it, or with the spoons or anything like that. We get more parallels between the first movie and the second movie, in that just how these two were brought up. Abra's family is the Torrances if they were successful.
Yeah.
The dad is successful, the mom is successful, the daughter, he even jokes with her, like, start planning for, Yale in 3 years or whatever, Harvard. And she's like, yeah, we'll see. And he's like, yeah, we will see. Like, they are the Torrances if Jack was successful.
They're the Torrances without Jack Daniels.
Exactly.
Yeah.
If Jack was a successful writer, that could have been them.
Yeah.
They could have been like that.
Well, if
So
he
you're
wasn't a
seeing-
drinker, he could have been successful, right?
So you're seeing the difference between the two families, and how both kids are the same. They both have the shine, but their family lives are what sets them on the path that they're on. So, so that's an important kind of running theme throughout the movie, is the parallels between The Shining and not only between Jack and Danny, but Danny and Abra as they go through this power, and how they're able to handle it and what they use it for, and the fact that both of them decided at a young age to tone it down. Danny does it, says, last time I used it was to change my eyes, and then she tones it down because she realizes, I'm going to scare the shit out of my parents. You know, the playing the piano when they're in bed,
Yeah,
not a good idea.
Playing the piano, teach your children.
You know, yeah. If I was Abra's parents and I walked down and saw that, I'm thinking we have a ghost and I'm burning the house down. Like, I'm not thinking, oh, my kid has powers. First, I'm going to be like, that kid wasn't playing to begin with. That piano's been doing it by itself. So, but they get back to Abra's house. They convince the father by showing him, or she shows him what's happened. And then they decide that they have to try and trick the True Knot.
Yeah, which is a very interesting device that they use, is basically astral projection to a teddy bear doll.
Right, and this
and so Abra's
goes
safe
even
and
further.
sound. The only way they could get the parents to agree to it is, we're not putting our daughter somewhere where she could be gotten.
But it goes further into, like we said earlier, the development of telling the Shining the power.
Yeah,
The fact
and how
that they
powerful
add
she
this,
is as well.
The fact that they add this other element of astral projection, where you can pretend you're in one spot and people that are tracking you think you're there. That's something that was not touched upon at all in The Shining. It's almost like in Rise of Skywalker when they start doing the stuff with the putting the lightsaber behind her head and he pulls it out.
Yeah.
Very similar stuff going on, where they're able to use their power and they are able to connect mentally, just like in that. They're connecting mentally throughout this movie. That stuff that was not happening in the original. That there's much more depth to this world than what we were first led to believe.
Yeah, yeah, and it's you have to give more depth to The Shining if you're going to have a group of the quasi-vampires that are hunting the people with The Shining.
Exactly. There has to be more to it other than just I see things and someone's going to kill me because I do. You know, I mean, there's got to be more to it than that. And that goes to credit to Stephen King of being able to expand this world in a way that's not stupid, where you're like, oh, you ruined it, you know, like.
Well, I don't know. If they were faithful to the book and gave them a tusk.
Yeah, that huge tusk thing. Like, that's the difference between a book and a movie.
That's why we're not talking about the book so much.
It works in a book, but in a movie, I've seen drawings people have done of what it would have looked like. It's ridiculous. Put a walrus tusk inside someone's mouth and have it hang, like how does that doesn't? But regardless, so
Steve never gave up on the hard stuff. I don't think.
No, he. So
love you, Steve.
So point being is they now realize they have to deal with the True Knot. They set up this booby trap to capture them, and Danny and Billy are going to shoot them all to death with these deer rifles that Billy's had when he used to be a hunter. It works almost flawlessly.
They do a damn good job for a bunch of.
Danny's never fired a gun in his life. We're led to believe, but they are getting some hip shots. People that are running.
They pretty much have them all. Yeah.
I mean, it works almost flawlessly, except the only person that's not there, other than Rose, who's been told to stay behind because the girl can sense her. And so Crow Daddy tells her, you got to stay behind because we can't have her realize we're coming. So Crow Daddy's the only one not there. He's sneaking around.
It's also a shame that they killed off, is her name Andy?
Yeah,
because she's a great character. We won't get into
Snakebite Andy.
But Snakebite Andy, great character, and one of the only times Flanagan went ahead and gave a character the Kubrick stare. She does it a couple of times.
Yeah, she does it. Yeah, she sure does.
Yeah.
So they wipe out basically the whole True Knot, except for Crow Daddy, who has been tracking Abra where she really is. Now, I guess he's not sure. Maybe he's not sure. The fact that they send everybody after what they think she is, but he doesn't go, and then they all get killed, is like, well, you sacrifice your whole group.
Well, you gotta have a plan B.
You know, but regardless, he actually finds Abra, knocks her out, kills the father, and Danny and Billy killed them all except Snakebite Andy. Billy shoots her, and as she's dying, she tells him to kill himself, and he puts the gun in his chin and blows his head off.
A change from the book.
Change from the book.
Which I mean, it crushed me because Billy's a great character.
Oh, no, Billy is, but he's great in the
useless.
movie.
He's useless after that. Really.
I mean,
they
great.
made up for it.
His character in the movie is great.
Yeah.
The guy that plays him, It does a fantastic job. I mean, you feel for him, and this guy is a good person.
But he had no place at the Overlook.
Oh God, no.
Which exists in this movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the two worlds have collided. The True Knot and Danny and Abra have now collided in real space, real time.
Yeah,
They've
so now we
actually
have a chase.
interacted.
Yeah.
So
we have
now
an actual
it's
chase. We have something to do.
Jack. Now it's Danny trying to get to Abra, who Crow Daddy has, and he's drugging her. So again, another element.
Her shine's dead.
It's
drugs.
muted way down.
Yeah.
So now we have Danny using an element of the shine which we haven't seen before, which is him hearing as a radio, he says, and listening and waiting for this faint signal to come through,
yes.
which does, and then he's able to turn around and go into her,
and
even though she's
do the
drugged.
same thing she did with Rose.
Exactly.
But she's drugged, so he's able to take over.
Right. So he's able to take over, and then through her is able to make Crow Daddy crash the van, in which case that kills Crow Daddy, and now it's just Rose. So Danny goes to where Abra is, picks her up, and he realizes, the only way we're going to do this is if we get her to follow us. And we need to go to the hotel because the hotel still has all this power. And if it's dangerous for them, it's got to be dangerous for her.
Yep.
And he's got all the secret weapons locked inside his head that will counteract whatever she has.
Yes.
So they get to the Overlook, and Danny refuses to let Abra come into the Overlook. He wants her to stay out there while he says, and I quote, "I have to wake it up."
Yeah, he knows what goes on there. He has to wake it up, but he also knows what that place has to expect.
Right. Regardless of the fact that he's trapped all these ghosts in his head, that hotel has power. Yeah. I mean,
and he's not chancing it with her.
He can't let her in there any more than it absolutely necessary. He's got to keep her away from it as long as he can. So he goes through, he turns everything on. We see the famous scene of him putting his face to the door as his father did. It's the first time we see a couple little flashbacks of reenactments from The Shining where the axe is coming through the door and the mom's reacting. We start to see little bits and pieces of The Shining reenacted with the cast that's in this movie, which is great because they did a good job with this cast. But as Danny goes through and wakes it up, then we get the next iconic scene, which is when he walks into the gold ballroom and sits down at the bar where there's a glass waiting for him, and we have the scene with him and his father. This is, for Danny's storyline, I would say probably the climax because he confronts his father.
Yeah, he gets closure.
He tries. He
tries to get closure.
Because it's not really his dad; it's the hotel.
It's the hotel. But I mean, maybe it's more we get closure.
Correct.
And even though this is a spirit, you see cracks.
You see the hotel talking, but then you see little flashes of Jack, where Jack is speaking, and not the hotel. The hotel is the "your credit's fine," on the house, all the stuff that Lloyd says. That's the hotel speaking.
It's the script.
Right.
Jack speaking, for better or worse. Worse being like, take your medicine.
That's Jack.
That's Jack.
He calls him son in the bathroom.
Yes.
This is all in the director's cut and not in the theatrical cut. The conversation between them in the theatrical cut is much shorter, and we'll go over the things that are said, but there's a lot of it missing, and the bathroom scene is not even in the theatrical version. They made the bathroom behind the bar.
It's the biggest shame because that set is unbelievable.
And the way that Henry Thomas, I think it's Henry Thomas that plays Jack, the way he does that,
Elliot,
where he leans forward and stays away from him, but leans in. It's so good.
Lean.
He does it so well. And even Ewan McGregor, the stance that he takes, that's exactly like Jack.
Defensive stance, yeah.
It's the same stance that Jack takes when he first goes in. Like, it's done so well. It's not like a copycat thing where it's like, oh, they couldn't come up with their own idea. That's the whole point of an homage.
Pure homage, yeah.
But so when he gets to the bar and he confronts his father, or he tries to because he's trying to get some sort of closure, he tells his dad about what happened to them after they left the hotel. Like, tries to let him know, hey, we tried to go on. There was some joy, but we were grieving. And you know, and then tells him about mom dying with the black flies and not being able to look at her. And the whole time, Jack is like, I don't know what you're talking about.
I'm just a bartender.
Yeah, I'm just Lloyd the bartender, pouring joy at the Overlook Hotel. So you see him starting to break down, and then he says, such unpleasant thoughts, maybe something warm to dull that pain, and pushes the glass door, and you see Danny say, this drink is going to cost an awful lot.
Yeah.
You know, and you get the lines, your credit's fine, the no charge and all that. But you see Danny say, you know, this is going to cost me 8 years and how many in front of me? You know, like, it's him realizing this is going to screw my whole life up if I, you know.
All downhill from there.
The choice that his father made to take that drink at that bar in that situation, and he realizes, I can't do that.
Yes.
You know. And then the hotel reacts and slaps the drink away, and then takes him into the bathroom to clean him up, and that's where a little more of Jack shows through, because he calls him son. You know, he says, all you have to do is bring her inside. Mm-hmm. Just get her into the hotel, and then the hotel will take over. Easiest thing in the world, son. And then we accept the things we cannot change, which is part of the whole AA.
Yeah.
You know, so from one alcoholic to another, using that line of you accept the things you cannot change, you see just a little bit of Jack. But what you really get out of the scene is Danny being able to say it. Even though it's not his father, maybe part of his dad's spirit is stuck there in the hotel, but he gets to at least say it.
Yeah.
Whereas he never got that closure, or whatever you want to call it. He didn't get that up until that point.
And he also realizes that, and it's like, okay, time to take him down.
Yeah. Oh yeah. You know, I mean, if you had 35 years or however long it's been since they were at the Overlook, if you had that much time built up where you got no closure, and then you were presented with an opportunity to let that person know what happened and what their actions did to you and mom, you're going to let them have it. Yeah. You're going to tell them everything. You were going to listen to me. You were going to hear what I have to say, and you're going to hear the fact that you screwed our lives up, like permanently screwed our lives up. So very pivotal scene. And Henry Thomas, when we heard that this movie was coming out,
there was no clue that there was any Jack in the movie.
Our first conversation was, are they going to try and CGI Jack? Yeah. And are they going to try and make Jack like they did with Grandma Tarkin?
Yeah, which is a lot of people didn't mind that. I personally would have been horrified to see Jack done in that way, because the Grand Moff Tarkin, it was they call it the uncanny valley. There's something wrong.
Because you know that guy's dead.
He's dead, but the CGI was good. But it's still like, that's CGI.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Like we've said before, you can always tell it's just CGI when you see it, and it really helps if you know the actor that they're showing is dead.
Yeah. To do Jack in just a silhouette here or a silhouette there.
Yeah.
With smoke and mirrors, fine. But I personally love the fact that Jack and Grady and every other character, Danny, Wendy, they were all done with actors who had a resemblance or could act.
The guy that plays Dick Halloran.
Dick Halloran's guy.
Oh my God,
is fantastic. Danny's
he captured the essence of. Well, and Dick, I think, had the hardest just because of how Scatman Crothers acts. The way his voice is. That's a really hard thing to mimic, because you've got to mimic it. You're not like Jack is one thing, because and to Henry Thomas's credit, he didn't overdo it.
I wouldn't say they were doing, like, he wasn't doing an impression of Dick Halloran. Mimicking maybe is the better word, because he was emulating.
He's got the
Henry Thomas did not, by any stretch of the means, try to imitate Jack Torrance / Jack Nicholson, because you can't.
No. You're literally just doing a Jack Torrance.
He played that part.
Yeah.
And he was very good in that part.
Well, and the beautiful thing about having, like, Henry Thomas do this is that you can literally say, like we said when we first started talking about the scene, you can literally say, this is not really Jack Torrance, this is the hotel.
Yeah.
So look at how he talks. It's very quiet. He's very controlled. And only when Danny ruffles his feathers by saying, oh, you're just Lloyd the bartender, then do you hear his voice go above a certain pitch. He starts to get angry. But up until that point, it's just like Lloyd the bartender in The Shining. Very monotone, very controlled. So you can say, well, you don't actually have to have Henry Thomas do an impression because it's really not Jack. It's the hotel speak. So you can do a calm Jack and say that's not really Jack. That's the hotel's version of Jack.
Yeah, that is Ghost.
So like. It makes sense, and thus you don't need to do a whole CGI Jack where someone like me and someone like you is going to be like, oh God, you got something wrong.
Yeah, well, I would have walked up.
You know, like it just.
That's all there is to it.
Like, don't show me a CGI of Nicholson. I mean, they did that in The Departed at the beginning where they tried to make him look younger, and he did look younger, but he also didn't look right.
Yeah.
Something didn't look right because you screwed around with his real face and made it look like that. So. Very, very pivotal scene. I think the climax of Danny's character.
Yeah, but that scene alone, is worth watching the director's cut.
Oh, absolutely.
That is just about does it for part 2. Looks like we might have to cut this one into 3 parts because it would be doing a disservice to the movie were we not to.
Both movies, since we are talking about them hand in hand.
So, Caretaker Ron.
Caretaker Matt.
Over and out. Till next time.